Singing of the national anthem.
The eyes of beauty, eyes of splendor, right? I think so. I found one on YouTube. I'm gonna send the link to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Isle of beauty, Isle of splendor, Isle to all so sweet and fair. All must surely Thank you very much. Please be seated.
Arnold, maybe we can take the video from David.
Voy a convertir el himno a ver cómo se.
Okay. Okay. Sandra, I haven't received anything.
Harold, there was somebody from Dominica speaking.
Yes, we can hear you, Dominica. Yes. Loud and clear. Yes, thank you.
Just one verse. Harold,
When they finish there, you just take it up.
just one verse.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
And
Very beautiful.
beautiful anthem. And while it's playing, Juan David, remember to have your
And Harold, did you send the link?
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Elimination, WHO representative to the Commonwealth of Dominica and concurrently the representative to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean countries. Before we begin, I wish to advise you all to familiarize yourself with the Zoom platform, and especially at the bottom of the screen, please find the globe icon, interpretation, click and select the language of your preference to tune in. English or Spanish is offered. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Elimination, WHO representative to the Commonwealth of Dominica and concurrently the representative to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean countries. Before we begin, I wish to advise you all to familiarize yourself with the Zoom platform. At the bottom of the screen, please find the globe icon, interpretation, click, select the language of your preference to tune in, English or Spanish is offered. Keep your mic muted. The Honorable Roosevelt Skerritt, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica, the Honorable Dr. Irving McIntyre, Minister of Health, Wellness and New Investment, Dr. Carissa Etienne, other honorable cabinet colleagues, members of cabinet, Mrs. Letitia Lestrade White, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health, other permanent secretaries, Engineer Jean Goff, Regional Director for Latin America and the Caribbean for Unicef, Dr. James Guani, Director of the Caribbean Sub-Regional Office for UNAIDS, Dr. Massimo Guinevere, Unit Chief, HIV, STI, Hepatitis, Tuberculosis, PAHO, Dr. Rhonda C. Thomas, Chair of the Regional Validation Committee, Dr. David Johnson, Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Laura Spirit, Director of Primary Health Care Services, Ms. Annie Wilson, PAHO Country Program Specialist, other invited guests, honorable ministers from other countries, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome. Connie, in 1990, with 3 baby loss, she did not know what was going in her life until she was able to be tested for HIV in 2000 and able to have her first child free of HIV after treatment. On the other hand, Angela, a 17-year-old pregnant in 2013 and didn't know about contraception, was impregnated for the first time she had sex and by a family friend. And 20% of adolescents may be also sexually active by age 15 and 17. Throughout the history of the SPA, that more than 119 years, PAHO has played a key role in realizing important disease elimination achievements in the Americas and globally. United States from the Americas and supported countries in the elimination of endemic transmissions of measles, rubella, congenital rubella syndrome through the strengthening of existing, well-designed and well-implemented vaccination programs. Today, we are celebrating the validation for the achievement of elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis in the Commonwealth of Dominica. The goal of elimination programs is to ensure that mother-to-child transmission of HIV and or syphilis is controlled and reduced to every and very low level, such that it ceases to be a public problem. In order to celebrate Dominica's achievement in eliminating the mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis, PAHO, in collaboration with the Ministry of Health and Wellness of the Commonwealth of Dominica, we are hosting a virtual ceremony to highlight the country's accomplishments. Today, you will hear from the country's leadership, PAHO director, and the regional partners, and see a video chronicling the success story of Dominica and the wider Caribbean. And of course, the director of PAHO will present the certificate of to the Prime Minister as guest. This milestone should mark the beginning of the end of HIV epidemic in children in the beautiful island of Dominica. At this point, it gives me a great pleasure to introduce to you the Minister of Health of Dominica, Dr. Erwin McIntyre. Dr. Erwin McIntyre is a medical doctor from the community of Fort Candy in the Rosso Valley. He is a devoted husband, a father of 4 children. On 2019, Dr. Erwin McIntyre was victorious in general election and won the Rosso Valley constituency seat and was sworn in the new Minister of Health, Wellness and the new Health Investment. As Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. McIntyre has willingly accepted the call to serve and continues to demonstrate genuine compassion in addressing the needs of Dominicans. In view of his excellent leadership and management of COVID-19 pandemic, Dr. McIntyre was selected Person of the Year in 2020 in the Commonwealth of Dominica by 2 main newspapers in the country, a choice which was pleasing to everyone. Dr. McIntyre is a graduate of the Indira Gandhi Medical College in Shimala, India, and he has worked as a senior medical officer at the Accident and Emergency Department in the Princess Margaret Hospital from 1996 to 2009. Dr. McIntyre is a former national basketball player representing Dominica at various tournaments. I present to you Dr. Erwin McIntyre.
Thank you, Dr. Gibre. Let me first recognize the Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, other honorable cabinet colleagues. Thank you very much, Dr. Gibre. Let me first recognize Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica, other honorable cabinet colleagues, Dr. Carissa Etienne, Director of PAHO, WHO, Mrs. Letitia Lestrade-White, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health, Wellness and New Health Investment, other permanent secretaries, Dr. Jean Goff, Regional Director for Latin America and the Caribbean, Unicef, Dr. James Guani, Director of the Caribbean Sub-Regional Office, UNAIDS, Dr. Massimo Guidinelli, UN Chief HIV STIs, PAHO, WHO, Dr. Itadiz Gibre, PAHO, WHO Representative, Barbados and Eastern Caribbean countries, Dr. Rhonda Seeley, Chair of the Regional Validation Committee, Dr. David Johnson, Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Laura Esprit, Director of Primary Healthcare, Mrs. Annick Wilson, PAHO Country Program Specialist, other invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, pleasant good afternoon. The Ministry of Health, Wellness and New Health Investment is indeed pleased with the achievement of Dominica's elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis. It is not only my duty, but pleasure to welcome everyone present here and those participating via the various media platforms to this significant certification ceremony. The elimination of mother-to-child transmission initiative started in the Caribbean following the approval by member states in the Americas and became a global initiative. The Pan-American Health Organization produced numerous documents and strategies to move the process in the region of the Americas. And to date, the Caribbean is the only region in the Americas that has been certified by the World Organization in eliminating the mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis. Dominica being committed to improving the healthcare system and services to include the goal of EMTCT of HIV and syphilis, endorsed the regional strategy and plan of action through Resolution CD50R12 in 2010, and strengthened its primary prevention and treatment services for elimination of mother-to-child transmission. This was to ensure a generation free of HIV and syphilis. The first action taken in that process was the implementation of the elimination of mother-to-child transmission strategy in October of 2014. This included the development of a work plan and the ongoing monitoring of national data such as prenatal and antenatal screening of HIV and syphilis, laboratory data, hospital and clinic records, maternal registers, and implementation of electronic SIP. In addition, clinical guidelines to include antenatal registers, maternal and child health strategy, and adolescent health strategy were updated. Capacity building was implemented among healthcare workers to support the primary prevention and treatment services for all pregnant mothers and their infants without compromising the quality of care provided. This meant that a pregnant woman, upon registering at the antenatal clinic, received HIV and syphilis testing, and this therefore contributed to the universal testing. As a ministry, we have achieved many of our goals and met targets set, but this has not been without any challenges. This validation process was no different. It was not a simple one, but a very vigorous and time-consuming process. A national elimination of mother-to-child transmission record was required, and this was completed and submitted by the Ministry of Health to PAHO EMTCT Secretariat, which then forwarded to the Regional Validation Committee. The report was approved by the Regional Validation Committee, which authorized a virtual and in-country assessment to verify and validate the information as detailed in the country report. The assessment also included surveillance, legal systems to evaluate areas such as human rights, review of private and public lab records, interviews with users of the services, offices of obstetricians and gynecologists, pediatricians, pharmacies, both private and public, Civil society organizations were also interviewed and included in the assessment process. Dominica was then recommended by the Regional Validation Committee as eliminating the mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis. The recommendation report was submitted and forwarded to the Global Validation Secretariat for further validation. This was received, agreed upon, and recommended to WHO that the country be certified as eliminating mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis. The ministry is aware of the need to maintain the elimination status when the reevaluation is done in the next 2 years, and the ministry pledges to do all in its capacity to achieve this. Today, the Ministry of Health, Wellness and New Health Investment, and by extension the government of Dominica, is proud to join other countries in the Caribbean and the world which have attained the elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis, and remains committed to the re-evaluation process in 2 years' time. I take the opportunity to recognize the commitment of the staff of the Ministry of Health for their contributions in the process, and more specifically the hard work of the pioneers of the EMTCT validation report compilation, monitoring, and evaluation of patients, and data collection and verification. The chair, the members of the Maternal Health Child Committee, our former and current NHAPS coordinators, the CMO, the chair of the National Validation Committee, our PMTCT coordinator, district medical officers, district nurses, community health nurses, and all those who are in one way or another contributed to this achievement. I must also recognize the invaluable support of PAHO and our PAHO country program specialist, Ms. Wilson, as well as the regional advisor for HIV/AIDS, Ms. Sandra Jones. We could not have achieved this without your support. Through great teamwork, we have achieved, and it is for this reason that I welcome you here to this part of our presentation on our achievement of EMTCT of HIV and syphilis in Dominica. Thank you.
Thank you, very Honorable Minister, for that welcome introduction. And again, thank you for those kind words and clearly articulating the process of elimination, validation process for elimination of mother-to-child transmission in the Commonwealth of Dominica. The next three speakers, which I will be introducing one by one, however, they have the same kind of role. The first one is Dr. Rhonda Sili Thomas. In that regard, it is the role of the Validation Secretariat at the regional and global levels to oversee and support the validation process. WHO headquarters, regional offices assume validation secretariat functions in partnership with UNAIDS and Unicef and the United Nations Population Fund. The Secretariat collaborates with key global and regional partners, as well as other bilateral and implementing agencies to support the mother-to-child transmission program for HIV and syphilis. Our next speaker is Dr. Rhonda Sili Thomas. Dr. Thomas is a graduate of the University of the West Indies. She is the registered and licensed medical practitioner and has been employed by the Ministry of Health, Antigua and Barbuda since 1995. Dr. Sili Thomas is currently the Chief Medical Officer in Antigua and Barbuda, and then Dr. Sili Thomas was appointed Chair of the Regional Validation Committee for the elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and congenital syphilis in 2018 by the Director of Pan American Health Organization. Since that time, she has used her professional expertise and the leadership to assure the effective and fair assessment of candidate countries applying for elimination of mother-to-child validation. Dr. Sili Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Edward. Honorable President Sarah, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica, Honorable Dr. Edward McIntyre, Minister of Health, Wellness and Investment, other honorable members of Cabinet, Dr. Teresa Etienne, Director of WHO, Mrs. Letitia Leslie White, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health, Wellness and New Health Investment, Dominica, other permanent secretaries, Dr. Jean Goff, Regional Director for Latin America and the Caribbean, Unicef, David Johnson, Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Laura Spirit, Director, Primary Healthcare Services, Ms. Anique Wilson, Program Company Specialist, other invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Let me first of all extend congratulations to the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Youth Development, Dominica, and by extension the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica on achieving this milestone on the validation of the elimination of the mother-to-child transmission of HIV and congenital syphilis. This achievement means that the country has met the impact and process indicators related to EMTCT for 2 consecutive years. In Dominica's case, data was submitted for 5 consecutive years from 2014 to 2018. And of note is that this includes 2017 when the island was devastated by 2 hurricanes. The indicators and targets include having a population case rate of new pediatric HIV infections due to MTCT of less than 50 per 100,000 live births, an HIV MTCT rate of less than 5%, a case rate of congenital syphilis of less than 50 per 100,000 live births, population level antenatal coverage of greater than 95%, coverage of HIV and of syphilis testing of pregnant women of greater than 95%, and antiretroviral therapy coverage of HIV positive women of more than 95%. There was an additional assessment of data quality, laboratory quality assurance, human rights, gender equality, and community engagement. The elimination of the mother-to-child transmission of HIV and congenital syphilis is so much more than meeting these targets. It represents a robust health system since the essential components of the health system must be in place for this achievement. These essential components that must be in place and evidently are in place in Commonwealth of Dominica include the robust health information system, medicines and technology, the services, the leadership and governance, the health workforce and financing. Congratulations to the Minister of Health, the Chief Medical Officer, doctors, nurses, and other members of the healthcare team who made this achievement possible. Be on the alert that the hard work is not over. The dedication and momentum that you would have harnessed in this process must be utilized as we move to achieve regional and global HIV-related targets, and also for revalidation in a few years. Permit me to focus briefly on the other members of the Regional Validation Committee and the Regional Validation Team who were involved in this process and thank them for the work they extended and the support to me as chair of this committee. In terms of the process of validation, the regional team reviewed the reports during 3 virtual assessments for program and data, and there were separate virtual assessments for laboratory and human rights. There was also a 4-day in-country assessment of laboratory and human rights, gender equity, and community engagement in February of 2020. The varied and diverse skill sets, training, and knowledge allowed members of the validation committee and team to carefully review and dissect the information. We did have rich, robust discussions and debates. The review and validation would not have been possible without this team effort, and I then take this opportunity to thank the members of the Regional Validation Committee for their contribution. I wish to extend gratitude to the PAHO Visual Country Office in Barbados and Eastern Caribbean, and particularly to Ms. Sandra Jones, that provided support through the PAHO EMTCT Secretariat. This support to the Regional Validation Committee was not only during the validation process for the Commonwealth of Dominica, but it is extended to other activities that allow us to fulfill our mandate. Thank you, Madam Director, for allowing us, members of the Regional Validation Committee and the Regional Validation Team, to serve the region of the Americas in this capacity. As I close, I once again offer congratulations to the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica on behalf of the Regional Validation Committee on achieving the validation of the elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and congenital syphilis. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rhonda C. Thomas, Chair of the Validation Committee, Regional Validation Committee. At this point in time, I will invite Dr. James Goani, Director of the UNICEF Caribbean Regional Office. Dr. Goani joined Caribbean Regional Office in 2018. He previously served as the regional program as an advisor in the Eastern and Southern African Region Office, which has almost 17 years of UNAIDS experience and served at the global level for monitoring and evaluation capacity. Dr. Guani, in 2001, received his doctorate in medical epidemiology from the Pennsylvania State University. He also holds a joint master's degree in public health and international development studies from Ohio University. Dr. Guani is a national of Ghana. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Davis. Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica, Honorable Dr. Ivan McIntyre, Minister of Health, Wellness and New Health Investments, other honorable cabinet colleagues, Dr. Carissa Etienne, Director of PAHO WHO, Mrs. Letitia Lestrade White, Permanent Secretary, Minister of Health, Wellness and New Health Investment, other permanent secretaries, Dr. Jean Go, Regional Director for Latin America and the Caribbean, Unicef, Dr. Massimo Gittidelli, Unicef, Unit Chief for HIV, STIs, PAHO and WHO, Dr. Yitades Gabriel, PAHO representing Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean countries, Dr. Rhonda Seeley, Chair of the Regional Validation Committee, Dr. David Johnson, Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Laura Everett, Director of Primary Healthcare Services, Miss Alec Wilson, PAHO Country Program Specialist, other invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Dominica's achievement in ensuring that its children are born HIV-free brings us one step closer to ending the AIDS epidemic. It's a testament to the combined strength of governments, health workers, civil society, and communities living with HIV. But this achievement also points to the possibility of keeping more than one public health ball in the air. The fact that this validation process was completed during the COVID-19 pandemic drives home the fact that while we respond to one epidemic, we must continue to work on other epidemics and other diseases as well. The Caribbean and the world must ensure that commitments, human and financial resources for HIV are not sacrificed because of COVID-19. Dominica's success is further proof of the Caribbean, that the Caribbean can become the first region to eliminate HIV transmission from mothers to babies. Since 2010, the proportion of pregnant women living with HIV in the region and receiving antiretroviral treatment to prevent transmission to their babies has doubled. In 2019, the Caribbean averted an estimated 1,300 new HIV infections among children. This progress is a result of political will and the collaboration necessary to secure universal access. This is not just a health system triumph. It would be impossible without the involvement of women living with HIV, their families, the organizations supporting their care. We recognize the courage and goodwill of women who get tested, adhere to treatment, and follow up with the care of their infants and themselves. We know this is not always easy and reiterate the importance of providing psychosocial support for individuals and families through the civil society organization best placed to help them. As you all know, next month, the world will adopt a new political declaration on HIV, one that will bring us closer to the end of AIDS as part of the Sustainable Development Goal agenda. The new global AIDS strategy calls for a focus on addressing the stigma, discrimination, and unequal gender norms that prevent pregnant women from accessing HIV testing, prevention, and treatment services for themselves and their children. The time for a more solid approach to the engagement of partners, peer mentoring, addressing socioeconomic challenges, supporting disclosure, and providing mental health support. I encourage all the countries that have achieved validation and revalidation to help mobilize and inspire other Caribbean leaders to do the same. One of the most powerful testaments to our capacity to end the AIDS epidemic is success in ensuring that children are not born with HIV. But that does not end here. We must shift the attitude and prejudices that make it difficult for families affected by HIV to live, learn, and work and play freely. We must give all young people the education, empowerment, and access to services they need to remain HIV-free through their lives. And we must do a better job at preventing HIV infections at all ages and among communities. By putting people first, we can end the AIDS epidemic. And again, congratulations to the Commonwealth of Dominica on achieving this great stride. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gwani. One of the most important areas of this work is to make sure children have hope. We must accept infinite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. That was what Dr. Martin Luther King said. The next speaker who brings hope to children is the Unicef Regional Director for Latin America and the Caribbean. Dr. Engineer Jean Goff assumed the position as Unicef Regional Director for Latin America and the Caribbean in November 2020. Currently, Dr. Engineer Goff is responsible for the leadership, supervision, and orientation of over 35 countries in the territories in our region. She has more than 28 years of UNICEF services. She was the Regional Director of UNICEF for Southeast Asia, based in Nepal, Kathmandu. She has served in various management positions in UNICEF, among the few to count as representative in Nigeria, special representative of the State of Palestine, Deputy Regional Director of the Regional Office of Latin America and the Caribbean, and then also she has served in the same country I am in now, representative in Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. Engineer Goff is by profession an engineer. She has a bachelor's degree in civil engineering and a master's degree in water resource management from Arizona State University. She is a national of Honduras. Engineer Goff, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Gabriel. Good afternoon. Honorable Roosevelt Spirit, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica, Honorable Dr. Everett McIntyre, Minister of Health, Wellness, and Youth Health and Rescue, Dr. Carissa Tinian, Director of FACO WHO, Ms. Leticia Lestre Waker, Permanent Secretary, Minister of Health, Wellness, and Youth Health and Rescue. Allow me to start an existing protocol. Warm greetings, ladies and gentlemen, warm greetings from Unicef to all the participants in this very special recognition ceremony. Today is a big, special day for all the people of Dominica. From now on, every child will be born free of HIV/AIDS in this great big country. No mother will transmit this disease to her own children anymore. UNICEF extends its warmest congratulations to the government of Dominica for achieving this double elimination of HIV and syphilis. Dominica is free today, it should remain free tomorrow, and should be free always. The great progress to make sexual and reproductive health available to children across most age groups in schools should be sustained over time. Together with FACO and other UN agencies, we stand ready to help support these efforts. Today is a moment of pride for the country, but also a source of hope for many others, including mine. As a mother and as a grandmother, I can only imagine how much lifetime suffering and stigma can be avoided, how many more opportunities can arise, how many children's dreams can come true if only all children were born free without HIV/AIDS and congenital syphilis. With more targeted efforts, Latin America and the Caribbean could become the first region in the world to eliminate the transmission of HIV and syphilis from mother to child. With this certification, Dominica is joining the 6 other Caribbean countries that have already eliminated it. You are now in a unique position to encourage and rally other governments to prioritize adequate and sustained investments in healthcare. Thank you, Dominica, for bringing us one step closer to an entire region free of HIV and congenital syphilis transmission from mother to child. This is our ambition for our children, inspired by the people of Dominica. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that kind words and then bringing the hope for children as well, Engineer Bob. At this point in time, we're going to take a small tour of Dominica, the country, the Commonwealth of Dominica, the country where such great achievement is now being validated through these mechanisms. So without any further ado, I will give the floor to our colleagues at the Communication and Media Unit to run the video.
We stand proudly with Dominica to celebrate the certification of the elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis by the World Health Organization.
A small community, and it took us a while to get there. A group of professionals met and for EMTCT was implemented within maternal and child health. Antenatal clinics provided information to all pregnant women and take the acceptance of
milestone. I think I can attest for the hard work that has been this achieving this. Yeah, I think my department has been an integral.
Test baby. Start treatment, work on the syphilis and
the EMTCT verification is a step in the right direction, and I look at it as a positive move, especially for our country, Dominica. I've been battling with persons infected with HIV, even with syphilis, and to some extent hepatitis B. And the fact that we have reached the stage where we have eliminated a positive move. Even for the future of the generations to come, we will have infections among our population. So we are indeed pleased to know that we have reached this milestone.
Part of our antenatal or prenatal screening, as early as the pregnant lady is registered in the service. If they have
milestone for us indeed. It is a proud moment for us in Dominica. On elimination of vertical transmission of HIV/AIDS and congenital syphilis in Dominica. So we have in Dominica a very well maternal child health program that is integrated, very well integrated, particularly in
Today is a big, special day for all the people of Dominica. From now on, every child will be born transmit this disease to her own children anymore. Unicef extends its warmest congratulations to the government of Dominica for achieving this double elimination of HIV and syphilis.
One, to get certification, the EMTC T certification, that is the elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis. It's a significant milestone, and in Dominica we feel really, really proud that we can join the Pan-American Health Organization getting certified. But not just the Ministry of Health, not just the government, but on the whole, we're very proud of that achievement. And it means a lot to us.
Can you mention, so this is on HIV and syphilis, they are guided by the maternal child policy and HIV testing, treatment and care guidelines.
This public health milestone would not have been possible without the government's investment in health and the unwavering dedication and persistent commitment of your healthcare providers over the years. Congratulations, Dominica. As a Dominican who has worked in primary care, including in HIV services during my former years, I am very proud and exceptionally happy at this achievement.
As a character lead spokesman and matters to do with health, I am pleased to report that the Caribbean is leading the world with the elimination of the mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis.
Thank you so much for that video. If there were any technical problems, because definitely the video is much clearer than what you saw right now. The next person I would like to introduce is, it's not an easy, I have a very long CV. However, one important thing, as you heard earlier in the video, the last person to speak is our director, Dr. Carissa Etienne. She's the daughter of Dominica. And the Dr. Carissa Etienne, was elected to by member states of Pan-American Health Organization for her second term as director of PAHO on the 27th September 2017. She has achieved a lot. The CV is very long. However, through her guidance and leadership, what we could learn is one important thing at all. To all who have accomplished great things have had a great aim, have fixed their gaze on a goal which was high, on one which sometimes seemed impossible. Dr. Carissa Etienne, under his leadership, PAHO successfully led preparedness and response to some of the pandemic, like Zika, chikungunya in our epidemic in our area, in our region, and also worked in areas of cholera, yellow fever outbreaks, as you remember, in Haiti, Brazil, respectively, and significantly, the organization of PAHO responds to declaring emergencies as quickly as possible, and then to control disaster as quickly as possible. In all the instances, within 48 hours, PAHO is on the ground. Dr. Carissa Etienne, from March 2008 to November 2012, served as an Assistant Director General of the Health Systems and Services at the World Health Organization in Switzerland. She also has worked as an Assistant Director of PAHO since 2003-2008. She led many technical programs, among which includes the communicable disease, which at this point in time we are talking about elimination of mother-to-child transmission. During her tenure at both WHO and PAHO, Dr. Etienne led the efforts to renew primary health care and to strengthen health systems based on primary health care, promoting integration and improving functionality of health systems. She's also spearheaded policy directions of reduction in health inequities. And then one of the trademark for Dr. Etienne is to
to look into the most vulnerable population and advancing care through all universal coverage and people-oriented care. Dr. Etienne began her career in her native Dominica as a medical officer at the Princess Margaret Hospital and was later appointed the chief medical officer at the country. Dr. Etienne received medical degree from in Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery from the University of West Indies in Jamaica, a Master's of Science in Community Health in developing countries from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, University of London. It gives me a great pleasure to bring to you our esteemed director, Dr. Carissa Etienne.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Dr. Yudadis, for this long introduction. Actually, in Dominica, I'm just known as Dr. Etienne. Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Roosevelt Skerritt, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica, Honorable Dr. Irvin McIntyre, Minister for Health, Wellness and New Health Investments, other honorable cabinet colleagues, other honorable cabinet ministers, Mrs. Leslie Lestrade White, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, other permanent secretaries, Engineer Jim Goff, Regional Director for Latin America and the Caribbean for Unicef, Dr. James Gowani, Director of the Caribbean Sub-Regional Office of UNAIDS, Dr. Massimo Gidinelli, our Unit Chief of HIV and STIs, Dr. Rhonda Seeley, Chair of the Regional Validation Committee, Dr. David Johnson, Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Laura Esprit, Director of Primary Healthcare Services, Ms. Annie Wilson, the PAHO Country Program Specialist, other invited guests, the many colleagues from PAHO who are joining us virtually, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm and pleasant good afternoon to you all. Of course, I would have preferred to be here with you in person, but thankfully we can do this virtually. I am extremely delighted to join the rest of the Caribbean community and all partners in celebrating the achievement of another Caribbean member state being certified by WHO as having successfully eliminated mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis. I am doubly delighted that today we are celebrating with my own country, Dominica. 3.5 years ago, we met in St. Kitts for a similar event on International AIDS Day in 2017, where we celebrated the achievement of dual elimination for 6 countries of the Caribbean. Ladies and gentlemen, as you heard, arriving at this significant public health milestone along our ambitious elimination agenda is indeed cause for genuine celebration from many perspectives. I would like to take a moment to share with you the final sequence of events leading up to today's ceremony. And the Honorable Minister laid this out, and also Dr. Seeley. Dominica's country report was submitted to the Regional Validation Committee for review in November of 2019. The assessment work required by the RVC was undertaken between February and June of 2020. That is when the COVID-19 pandemic had already begun its devastating march across the world. We are therefore extremely grateful for the sterling and professional work of the committee, which was conducted both virtually and via face-to-face interventions, and enabling their final assessment report to be submitted in August of 2020. In September of 2020, the Global Validation Committee approved the report and recommended to WHO the certification of elimination by Dominica. It is against this background that we must first extend our sincerest congratulations to the government of Dominica and its Ministry of Health for their unwavering commitment in providing the needed financial and human resources to have enabled the work of this initiative to proceed uninterruptedly even during the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. Secondly, we must celebrate all of the health workers, the nurses, the doctors, the information specialists, the laboratories, all who labor day in and day out with unstinting dedication to arrive at this milestone. I must applaud them for their sensitive communication and advocacy work, which enabled the affected mothers and fathers to willingly participate to ensure that their offsprings would be born free of HIV and syphilis. This is also a singularly notable achievement, as Dominica has been the only new country to be certified by WHO during the pandemic, even though many others were not certified. Dominica is joining a success story with several other Caribbean nations, including Cuba, of having reached that goal of a generation born free of these diseases and maintaining their elimination status over the intervening years. But this is no surprise. The English-speaking Caribbean has always been first in the elimination of vaccine-preventable diseases, for instance. Dominica's journey to this ambitious achievement represents a accumulation of years of expanding the capacity of its primary care services to address communicable diseases and adopting harmonized and integrated approaches to improving the health outcomes for women and their children within maternal and child health services. Ladies and gentlemen, strong political commitment, seamless interprogrammatic collaboration, and linkages across services at the primary healthcare level, coupled with the unfailing dedication of health professionals and the participation of communities, must continue to play a pivotal role in maintaining this success. I would like to emphasize that this certification represents a first step, but Dominica must continue to ensure that this remarkable achievement is sustained. The complete rollout of the point-of-care testing for syphilis and the in-country early infant diagnosis are new and additional innovations which will contribute to the provision of timely and high-quality services for pregnant women and their babies. Linkage of the AMCT strategy with other essential services such as sexual and reproductive health, adolescent and men's health, and STI services will also play a significant role in sustaining these gains that we are celebrating today. While all countries are intensely focused on the acquisition of adequate supplies of COVID-19 vaccines for their population at this time, I would like to take this opportunity to encourage all PAHO member states to continue to expand their work on the elimination of infectious diseases and to strongly consider the addition of viral hepatitis B as a candidate for elimination. The use of a highly efficacious vaccine, which is available through PAHO's revolving fund, combined with other public health measures, makes this goal attainable within the very near future. Let's go for it. In conclusion, I would like to gratefully acknowledge the support of Unicef, which shares the EMTCT Secretariat with PAHO, UNAIDS, PANCAP, and other regional partners for their ongoing coordination and collaboration as they help to maintain the EMTCT strategy as a priority on the regional health agenda. We are also very grateful to the international community and their representatives for maintaining a high level of interest in EMTCT, for their strong partnerships, and for accompanying us today in this celebration. For instance, Dr. Cesar Nunes, the former UNAIDS sub-regional that is here with us, listening virtually. The hard work and commitment of the Regional Validation Committee under the skillful leadership of Dr. Rhonda Seeley, the Chief Medical Officer of Antigua and Barbuda, has been remarkable and is highly appreciated. Thank you, Rhonda. The RVC was able to effectively overcome numerous challenges and to advance and complete its validation work in Dominica. Finally, to all of the PAHO staff that are based at headquarters, as well as at the sub-regional and national levels, and to all those who have contributed and worked tirelessly in support of the validation process, I extend my heartfelt thanks. Congratulations again, Dominica. And we get ready for the award of the certificate. Over to you.
Thank you, Director Etienne, that wonderful speech about the award for the government of Commonwealth of Dominica and overall the regional development of the Americas and the Caribbean to address this important area of elimination of unsuspected transmission and adding more into that, the hepatitis and other diseases. At this point in time, I'm going to invite the Honorable Roosevelt Skirret to come to the podium. And Dr. Kaisa Etienne will be handing over the certificate through our whole country program specialist to the Prime Minister. Etienne, would you like to say some words right now? You are muted, Doctor. You are muted.
Thank you very much. It is with immense pleasure that I would like to formally present this WHO certificate of elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and congenital syphilis in Dominica to the Prime Minister of Dominica, the Honorable Dr. Roosevelt Skirret. Dr. Skirret, it really is an honor to do this. I'm hereby delegating Ms. Annette Wilson, PAHO's Country Program Specialist, to now make this presentation to you, Prime Minister, on my behalf. And I thank you. Congratulations.
I'm sorry I was not able to see, so that if you are able to...
That's better.
Yes, Prime Minister, and yeah, if you move a little bit to the left, then you could see better.
John.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Congratulations on behalf of that act of power who already submitted this to all of you and the government and the people of Dominica. It is now my honor and a great privilege to introduce to you Honorable Roosevelt Skirret. Before I introduce the Honorable Prime Minister, I want just to say two words. Climbing a mountain. High, higher, and highest. The Honorable Roosevelt Skirret is a Dominican politician who has been a Prime Minister of Dominica since 2004. At age 31, he became the world's youngest Prime Minister, leading a two-party coalition government. He has also been a member of Parliament for his constituency since 2000. Regionally, he has served
as the chairman of the Organization of Western Caribbean States, or ECS, and most recently also the chairman of the Caribbean Community. He graduated from the University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, Oxford, Mississippi, where he obtained Bachelor's of Honors degree in psychology and then a PA in English. In May 2005 general election, Prime Minister Skiri successfully led his party to win outright majority in the legislature. In 2019, the Dominica Labour Party led by the Prime Minister, Skiri, won unprecedented 5th consecutive term, including 4 under his premiership. As Prime Minister, he is responsible for Cabinet Secretariat. He has been Minister of Information and Technology, Minister of Finance, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Prime Minister Skiri is responsible for external affairs, contribution to regional and international organizations, consular affairs, diplomatic representation, and protocol. Prime Minister Skiri has earned an international reputation for his national and regional leadership, along with hand-on and sincere approach to international affairs. He is an ardent advocate of wider regional cooperation and has worked towards the deepening of cooperation with the community of Latin America and the Caribbean states. Prime Minister Skiri is married to Melissa Skiri, Honorable, and he is a father of 2 sons. Ladies and gentlemen, I present the Prime Minister of
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Gibre. Let me first of all recognize my colleague and friend, Dr. Irvin McIntyre, our Minister for Health, my other cabinet colleagues and friends who are here. I also want to especially recognize Dr. Carissa Etienne, the Director of the Pan American Health Organization, other ministers from the various Caribbean countries represented, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, representatives of the CARICOM Secretariat, the Regional Director of UNAIDS, Regional Director of Unicef for Latin America and the Caribbean, the Chair of the Regional Validation Committee, representatives of the UN and other international agencies, Ms. Wilson, who is the PAHO country specialist, and I must say to Dr. Carissa Etienne that Ms. Wilson is in fact a member of staff of the Ministry of Health in Dominica. The Director of the Pan-Caribbean AIDS Partnership, Dr. Johnson, our Chief Medical Officer and staff of the Ministry of Health, distinguished guests, representatives of the media, ladies and gentlemen, friends all, good evening. A very warm and pleasant good afternoon to you all. Today, I receive this certificate with immense appreciation and pride. Appreciation to all the persons that in some way or another contributed to us reaching to this important milestone. Particularly recognize the Pan American Health Organization for its invaluable technical support and guidance, working beside us for the past 7 years since we engaged in this initiative. The Pan American Health Organization has been persistent and committed to work with us despite the COVID-19 pandemic to meet the targets required for the elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV, AIDS, and syphilis as a public health concern in Dominica. Dr. Etienne, please receive our gratefulness for this and the overall technical collaboration of the Pan American Health Organization with the people of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Appreciation to all the regional partners that have steadfastly supported and accompanied the process, and in this regard, I would like to thank Unicef for co-chairing the EMTCT Secretariat with PAHO, UNAIDS, other UN partners, and PANCAP for their continued advocacy and support, which has contributed to this laudable achievement. Appreciation to all healthcare workers who have, through their dedication and commitment, have ensured that Dominica strive for a generation free of HIV and syphilis, and those same healthcare workers who, with determination, ensure the continuation of the essential services have also been at the front line of our COVID-19 response. A real deep appreciation and thanks to our healthcare workers. The persistent and dedicated work of numerous public health nurses and other health professionals, both within the public and the private health sectors, under the leadership of the Honorable Dr. Irvin McIntyre, Minister of Health, Wellness and New Health Investment, have been pivotal. I wish to express my sincere appreciation to the entire health team of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Pride that the Commonwealth of Dominica has joined the group of Caribbean countries that are leading the agenda for the elimination of the mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis in the region. The Commonwealth of Dominica joins 4 Caribbean territories: Anguilla, Bermuda, the Cayman Islands, and Montserrat, and 3 PAHO WHO member states: Antigua and Barbuda, the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and Cuba, having been the first country in the world to have been validated by the World Health Organization in 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, what we are celebrating here this evening is truly a remarkable achievement. Eliminating mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis as a public health concern requires the strengthening of primary prevention and treatment services for HIV and syphilis for pregnant women within an established and successful maternal, perinatal, and child health services. The Commonwealth of Dominica provides care and antiretroviral treatment to all HIV-positive women after delivery free of charge. Over the past 4 years, Dominica has been able to maintain 95% or more coverage of antenatal care and skilled attendance at birth, 95% or more coverage of HIV and syphilis screening of pregnant women, 95% or more coverage of HIV and syphilis treatment in pregnant women, as I indicated, 0 incidence of perinatal HIV per 1,000 live births, 0 incidence of congenital syphilis per 1,000 live births. As a result, there have been no recorded cases of mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis in the Commonwealth of Dominica over the past 4 years. Ladies and gentlemen, from a wider health system perspective, I would like to underscore some important advancement that this government has been gearing effort towards. As part of the government's investment in health, while still in the recovery process from Hurricane Maria, one of the strongest storms on record to make landfall on Dominica on September 18, 2017. Increased access and coverage of health services. The investments in our infrastructure. Just this year, for example, we have inaugurated 6 new health centers, and with another 5 to be inaugurated within the next 2 months. And we expect to commence construction on 2 additional health centers in this year, 2021, one in the city of Roseau and the other in Cottage, in the Cottage constituency. The new Marigot Hospital will be completed in June of this year, and we expect the total completion of the Dominica-China Friendship Hospital by the end of 2021. The establishment of 3 smart health facilities in Lapland, Portsmouth, and Granby, and by July this year, the retrofitting of Trafalgar and Massac health centers as part of the smarting of healthcare facilities through assistance from the PAHO. This initiative will support the island's mission to become the world's first climate resilient nation. The achievement of the dual elimination targets has additional positive implications as it contributes for Dominica to reach other Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, such as the reduction of maternal and child mortality, universal access to sexual and reproductive health care services, and universal health coverage, while contributing to the reduction of inequalities. And I must say that we have the political will in Dominica to achieve these SDGs, and we must do everything possible to achieve these SDGs for our people and indeed our contribution to universal health care. While we celebrate, my dear friends, we must be reminded that validation is not an end in itself. Rather, it is just the beginning of a process, as we will need to maintain our elimination status. We continue our quest to improve the quality of care, coupled with ongoing surveillance and a robust monitoring and evaluation system. Strengthening of other key elements, such as early diagnosis and treatment, coupled with universal access and coverage, strong and consistent partnership between the public and private health sectors, as well as efficient laboratory network involving both public and private laboratories are equally as important. Esteemed ladies and gentlemen, the success that we celebrate today did not come overnight, but have resulted from the cumulative, progressive, and concerted efforts of many. As we look to the future, we intend to further enhance and expand the maternal and child health platform while maximizing efforts to eliminate other preventable communicable diseases. As I conclude, I would like to sincerely congratulate the governments of those countries and territories that have achieved EMTCT targets. I also wish to highly commend the governments of the region for their political commitment and dedication in maintaining the EMTC strategy on the national and regional levels as they strive to end HIV and other STIs as public health problems. I must also convey my genuine thanks to all the women and their partners who recognize the critical importance of these early interventions during pregnancy and took appropriate actions, and by extension, supported the prevention efforts. Finally, I wish to ratify the Commonwealth of Dominica's commitment to continue to work assiduously to ensure a generation born free of HIV and congenital syphilis. And I also want to challenge the Ministry of Health in Dominica to redouble our efforts to fight the scourge of CNCDs in our country. I see CNCDs as being one of the major threats to our national and regional economies, where so many young people are suffering from diabetes and the associated illnesses, and also suffering from strokes and health and heart diseases. And all of these things can be prevented if we take a proactive preventive measure. And as I've said always, the Ministry of Health has the absolute support, 100% support, both the political will and the allocation of resources, not to treat CNCDs, but to prevent it. We have to focus more on prevention rather than spending the monies on treating CNCDs. PAHO, I want to thank PAHO for being such a wonderful partner. And without PAHO, I do not think that all of the things that we can proclaim and acclaim could have been achieved by ourselves alone. And I think PAHO is a regional institution, hemispheric institution that requires and demands the highest commendation from all of us in this hemisphere. Thank you very much, and may God bless our efforts.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. Congratulations again to you, to your leadership, and the taught me many things. He also mentioned that when you have a choice, choose the best, and when you believe you have no choice, do your best. Dr. Massimo Guidinelli is the chief of HIV, hepatitis, tuberculosis, and STI infectious unit at the Pan American Health Organization. Massimo Guidinelli, a trained physician in infectious diseases, tropical medicine, and hygiene. He has several years of international experience. He joined PAHO in 2011, and currently, as a chief, he leads this work in the elimination as well. Between 2001 and 2011, Dr. Guidinelli was employed by WHO with HIV department in Geneva, then in Cambodia as the regional advisor on HIV and STIs at the Office of the Western Pacific Regional Office in Manila, Philippines. He is a graduate in medicine and surgery in 19 from University degli Studi di Milano, from Milan University, Milano, and holds a diploma in tropical medicine and hygiene from the University of Liverpool and postgraduate diploma in specialty in infectious disease from the University of Pavia, Italy. Dr. Guidinelli has worked in numerous countries, including for European Commission in China, Morocco, Namibia, Ethiopia, and he began his international career in the international NGO in Guinea-Bissau. It is my pleasure to invite my colleague, Dr. Massimo Guidinelli.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gabriel, for your nice introduction. Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica, Honorable Dr. Irving McIntyre, Minister of Health, Wellness and New Health Investment, other honorable cabinet ministers, Dr. Carissa Etienne, our director at PAHO, Mrs. Letitia Lestrade-White, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Health, Wellness and New Health Investment, other permanent secretaries, Engineer Jim Goff, Regional Director for Latin America and the Caribbean at Unicef, Dr. James Guani, Director of the Caribbean Sub-Regional Office of UNAIDS, Dr. Gabriel, Representative for PAHO WHO in Barbados and Eastern Caribbean countries, Dr. Rhonda Seeley, Chair of the Regional Validation Committee, Dr. David Johnson, Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Laura Esprit, Director of Primary Healthcare Services, Ms. Anneke Wilson, PAHO Country Program Specialist in Dominica, other distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm good afternoon to all of you. Let me first add my sincerest congratulations to the government of Dominica and its people for the fantastic achievements that we are celebrating today. However, in my closing remarks, I would like to focus on the significance of Dominica's certification, taking on the perspectives of the rather long public health journey, which in fact started with the endorsement by PAHO's member states of the visionary goal of eliminating congenital syphilis from countries of the Americas. That decision was made as early as 1995, quite a long journey. And that happened well ahead of steps subsequently taken by WHO and other countries in the world. And that decision, that year, set in motion a cascade of events that would eventually lead to the Dual Elimination Initiative, or ENTCT, as it is better known nowadays. That seemingly initial step, in reality, added to decades of efforts and achievements, as our director already reminded us, undertaken by PAHO member states since the creation of the Sanitary Bureau, all along the way of eliminating communicable diseases from the Americas. Years later, in 2010, PAHO member states were once again first and ahead of time to capitalize on research and technological advances in HIV management, and they added HIV to the chapter of congenital syphilis, and that was the official launching of the dual elimination strategy in the region of the Americas. The huge momentum that step generated led not only to programmatic implementation of the new guidelines, the new technologies that were brought by research, but also to the establishment of an EMTCT infrastructure, all the way from national validation committees in member states, regional validation committees at the regional level, but also at the global level with the Global Validation Committee. PAHO and WHO assisted through secretariat functions all those steps, together with the broad engagement of partners. At the same time, we also witnessed the development of a know-how of validation, which was supported by definitions, by rules, and all the instruments for proceeding to the certification of achievements that we have seen today in action. But I would also add, most importantly, that step set the seeds for a culture, for developing a culture of elimination in HIV and STI. Some years later, in 2015, the Caribbean region was really making history in HIV and public health, with Cuba becoming the first country in the world being validated by WHO, followed a couple of years later in 2017, as already reminded, by another group of 6 Caribbean countries and territories to be validated. With Dominica's 2021 this year, it looks all so remarkable that out of the 11 countries certified worldwide for achieving dual elimination, 8 are actually sitting in this very part of the world. Now, looking beyond those undeniable successes, I would like to reflect on some of the spin-offs and impacts being generated by this powerful public health experience. EMTCT has provided a major boost to the integration of services at primary healthcare level by making wide use of platforms such as the antenatal care, or more broadly the mother and child health, by linking other communicable diseases and eventually non-communicable diseases to the same package, to the same provision of services. An example already widely referenced today too is the EMTCT Plus strategy, which takes on board also hepatitis B and in countries of endemicity, Chagas disease. The turning point of all these developments has really occurred with the recognition of EMTCT services and their achievements as markers of quality for ANC and MCH services. Furthermore, the achievements of the dual elimination have contributed greatly to the normalization of HIV responses, and at the same time has deeply galvanized HIV communities in their efforts. They have provided a robust proof of concept that, together with antiretroviral therapy, ending AIDS by 2030 is plausible, it is feasible, and that goal was eventually adopted by the UN high-level meeting on HIV/AIDS held in New York in 2016. The visibility of EMTCT provided also an accelerating influence on the development of the initiative for the elimination of other communicable diseases and their consequences, and we have built up a huge list of 30 potential candidates to become no more a public health problem by the year 2030. That initiative was presented by PAHO Secretariat to member states and enthusiastically endorsed in 2019. Finally, EMTCT has also represented a major area of investment of my professional experience, including the last 10 years that I have spent at PAHO. Today, I do stand the privilege of giving my farewell and take leave from public health in a grand finale as we celebrate yet another great success right here in Dominica, in the very heart of the Caribbean, and even importantly in the homeland of our Papa's director. I am very appreciative of the trust and the constant support provided by Papa and member states to these initiatives, and overall for giving a huge line of credit to innovation in public health. I would also like to give a special recognition to national HIV, STI, and many other priority public health programs, to UN agencies and other partners, to civil society and community-based organizations, to dedicated and resilient health workers throughout the Caribbean for being so receptive to this approach and firmly believing in its public health potential. Last point, I have to share with you my only regret, and that is that to date we are still waiting for the first Latin American country to be validated. Not that there haven't been serious attempts to achieve that, but for the time being, this is just one of the challenges left to my fellow colleagues at PAHO to deal with over the coming months. So once again, congratulations to Dominica and thank you for your kind attention.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Gedenevi. And let me again congratulate the government of Dominica, the Commonwealth of Dominica, as we close facing challenges with strength and determination and confidence is what matters. As the Prime Minister mentioned, this is the beginning, and you have done it. Congratulations to all who attended this virtual ceremony. I thank you very much on behalf of the Pan-American Health Organization, on behalf of the Director of PAHO, and all the staff at the Street Development Organization at regional, sub-regional, and country level. Good luck, have a good weekend, and we'll see you again in another virtual ceremony. If it's not virtual, it will be face-to-face once we have defeated the COVID pandemic. Thank you so much.
Thank you everybody for being with us. Can you now join us with a cocktail at the terrace, please?